trying to condense it into a short little nutshell, put it in a nutshell, I hitchhiked out here when I was 19. I got drunk and ended up in an acting class. I didn't come out here to be an actor. I had been on an athletic scholarship, had played basketball scholarship. I got hepatitis. They said I couldn't play basketball anymore. So I came out here, got drunk, ended up in an acting class. This big guy, Bill Chapman, I don't know whatever happened to him, but he was a construction worker, and I was drunk. He physically carried me into the class, set me down, said, "Who's in charge here? I've got a movie star for you." And at the end of the class, the teacher came up to me and said, "I don't know what your problem is. Don't come back to my class drunk." And because of that, I went back the next week to apologize to him. He gave me a scene to do from a Eugene O'Neill one-act play called A Long Voyage Home. That was a monologue to do from the play. And I went back and did it, and for some reason realized that I had found what I wanted to do. The first play I did was The Importance of Being Earnest, a pass-the-hat production of The Importance of Being Earnest, and I got 50 cents for it. And I had a choice of taking it in coin or in check. So I said, "Well, why don't you give it to me in a check?" So my mother has it framed, and it's at home now. My first coin as an actor. And it was quite a few years before I got more coin as an actor. I was hitchhiking to an acting class one night, and this guy gave me a ride, Joe D'Augusta. I thought he was an actor, and a couple of weeks later, I got a call in the acting class saying that a friend of mine at MGM wanted to do an interview with me, or had an interview for me. I said, "I don't have any friends at MGM." I said, "You don't want the interview?" I said, "No, I'll take it." So that led to my first little thing, and I did a little part on The Lieutenants, an old television series. After that, it was 3.5 years before I got my next interview. While I was up for that, I got an interview for Ben Casey. They said, "We want to go with a name. If we don't get a name, then we'll go with you." They got a name, so I didn't get that one. Then after that, my next interview was 3.5 years later for In the Heat of the Night. So it was 5.5 years after I started acting. And I got the role. And then Quincy Jones and Sidney Poitier and Norman were pushing me to Brooks for In Cold Blood. And Richard Brooks was watching looking at the dailies, which I didn't know while I was working on the film. But the last day of shooting, they told me to go over and meet Richard Brooks, and so I did. And I had never read the book. I didn't know. I'd never heard of it. I was parking cars and going to acting classes. I didn't read the trade papers. So after I went over to meet Brooks, I sat down. He said, "I'm looking for a combination of," and he names about 8 of the biggest stars in the history of cinema. And I said, "I think you've got the wrong boy. I can't play one of those guys, let alone all of them. But I tell you what, I'm one hell of an actor." I was a little cocky. And he called me. I went back later and had another meeting with him. He asked me to prepare a scene. There's a scene that I'd been working on for about 2.5 years with this girl who had stopped acting in the meantime, but I wanted to see what it was like to work on a scene over a period of time, to see how the character would change. or if it would change, or how I would feel about it. I just wanted to know, have that experience. And so I called her and asked her if she would do the scene. I couldn't tell her who it was for. And she said, sure, and we rehearsed the scene. But the night before I went in, Sunday night, about 2 o'clock, I said, that's not the right scene. And I didn't know what to do. And I called Tom Shaw, who was Brooks's production manager assistant. I said, and he said, he gave me his card at one point, said, call me anytime, day or night, if you need anything. So I called him. He says, are you in jail? I said, no, I'm not in jail. Why are you calling me at this hour? I said, I don't know what to do tomorrow. He said, we just want to see you. I said, then I'll come in and turn around 3 times. I mean, what do you mean you want to see me? What kind of scene should I do? He said, do Shakespeare, do anything. I went in the next day and did a couple of soliloquies from Hamlet that when I was younger, I used to, every time I had a drink or two, I would start doing to be or not to be, or something. You know, so I had it ready and I did it, and then I did the scene, the first scene, in the spur of the moment. I said, I'll do the monologue from a Long Voyage Home, which was the first thing I did on stage. So I did that as well. As a result of that, he had me back out again. And each trip I'm thinking, I'll find out tomorrow. And tomorrow you didn't find out. And then he gave me a couple of scenes to do from Night Must Fall, Emlyn Williams' play. And I did those scenes, and then I had to go do them for the head of the studio, and then they did a screen test, and then finally I got it. But everyone wanted those 2 roles. I mean, they were very, very sought-after roles. When we started working on it, I didn't want the audience to like me. I didn't want to look glamorous to the audience, and neither did Brooks. He didn't want that either. He wanted the reality of it. But it's an interesting thing for an actor to say, I want an audience to dislike me. But at the same time, I wanted them to know that these 2 guys were human beings, that they were human. They committed horrible crime, the worst crime you can commit. I think that the power of that film is that it doesn't glamorize their deeds. It doesn't glamorize their personalities. From In the Heat of the Night and In Cold Blood, I had a 7-picture deal with the Mirisch brothers and a 7-picture deal with Columbia Pictures. Castle Keep was one of those pictures that Columbia exercised their option on. After that film, one morning the phone rang, woke me up, and it was Burt saying, Kid, I've got a great role for you. I said, who is this? He said, Burt. I said, Burt who? He said, Lancaster. I said, Burt, could you let me get a cup of coffee and wake up? Could you call me back in about 30 minutes? So he called me back, and he with the Gypsy Moths, and they wanted me to do another film with him. I said, Burt, I can't make a career out of following you around. I should have. That was because I loved the guy. I loved working with him. He was a remarkable person. Then I worked with Robert Aldrich, who was a class man. And that was a wonderful film to be involved with, too. It was a wonderful role. Right after The Ninth Configuration, I got a Golden Globe nomination, won a couple of film festival awards for, and boom, 4 years, no work. So if I'd known that, I could have gone to school, become a lawyer or something. But you never know when you don't know that you're going to face 4 blank years. I have no idea what happened. I have no idea. I didn't get interviews, I didn't get inquiries, and it was, you know, in essence, you start over, you know, and that's what I did. I started over. I think that that's one of the hardest parts of being an actor is not really the actual work, but the coping with the coping with the day-to-day existence of your, all of a sudden you're up for a role, you get jacked up, you want it, and then if you don't get it, you have a letdown, and I think that's why a lot of actors turn to drink or other diversions that are not constructive. And I've probably used a lot of those myself, but fortunately I've been able to pull back before I did any real damage to myself. I really put the same amount of attention to every role that I play. If it's this, you know, like I say, I had to start over and I was playing small roles. I put as much attention to those roles as I do to a lead role. In a way, the smaller roles are in a way more demanding because you have to be clear in your intentions. You're coming in from somewhere, you're having an action while you're there, and you're leaving the movie. So you have to be precise in what your intentions are. I think when you read a script, what you see in your mind's eye, the first time you read it, if you could capture that, you would have every character you play. And that's what I try to get back to, is what I see in my mind's eye when I first read the script. And you have to work at it. You have to get past the tensions and the anxieties and the tricks that you try to teach yourself, that you pick up and learn over the years, and you try to get right back to what you saw in your mind's eye. And if you can do that, if you have the freedom to allow yourself to do that, then I think you can come up with different characters. And it's much more fun for me to play different characters than playing variations of me all the time. Looking back, if my career ended today, I've had a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the people I've worked with. I've enjoyed the smallest roles that have been fun. And the big roles have been, you know, a revelation at times. So it's been a good life.